swept to power to become the nation's 31st Prime Minister.
Thank you for this extraordinary honour.
A Liberal wipeout.
Tonight they have delivered their verdict.
A wave of teal and a splash of green.
And they said we couldn't do it.
After leading Labor from the political wilderness, Anthony Albanese fronted the most diverse parliament in history, with more crossbenchers to negotiate with. While the aftermath of the election saw a new Liberal leader with a mission.
To clean up Labor's mess in 3 years' time.
New ministers and the shadow of secret ones.
This has been government by deception.
With revelations, former Prime Minister Scott Morrison appointed himself to 5 additional ministries at the height of the COVID pandemic.
I understand the offence that some of my colleagues particularly have felt about this. I understand that, and I've apologised to them.
Have a good trip, Prime Minister. Thank you.
Labor enjoyed a long honeymoon period with whirlwind international trips.
We were sworn in, got in the plane, and if you fall asleep while you're here, it's okay.
And a once-in-a-100-year victory, capturing the Liberal heartland seat of Aston in Victoria. Election promises were swiftly implemented. The government legislating climate targets, a national anti-corruption commission, and repairing relationships with global leaders.
I commit to the Uluru Statement from the Heart in full.
But a key commitment to enshrine an Indigenous voice to Parliament in the Constitution failed.
With 3 states voting no, the referendum is defeated as well.
I will always accept responsibility for the decisions I've taken.
This is the referendum that Australia did not need to have.
The result was devastating for many First Nations people and marked a turning point in the government's fortunes. Poll numbers started to drop and successive interest rate rises began constricting more tightly around household budgets.
The Reserve Bank delivers a 10th straight rate rise with more to come.
As a pre-election promise came back to bite.
Energy bills, which will be $275 for the average house, lower in 2025.
And it promised a $275 cut to your power bill on 97 occasions. Now, Labor will say anything to get into power, and once in government, they just don't follow through.
Palestinian gunmen have crossed into Israel, opening fire on civilians in a surprise dawn attack.
This was no act of war against the army of an enemy. It was the slaughter of innocent people.
Tragically, in coming days, thousands of Gazans are likely to be paying the price.
The war in Gaza became a political pressure point for the government in Australia as it tried to hold the middle ground on the Middle East.
Shame, shame. Tell him to go home. What are you doing here?
Yes.
He'll be going.
Yes. With a heavy heart, but a clear conscience, I announce my resignation from the Australian Labor Party.
Senator Fatima Payman unable to accept its position on recognition of a Palestinian state.
While the coalition stood more firmly in support of the Israeli government.
To call for a ceasefire at this time, when Israel is defending herself, I think speaks very poorly of this government.
Calling for an outright ban on visas for people fleeing Gaza and accusing Anthony Albanese of failing to address rising anti-Semitism in Australia.
As dawn approaches, a temple burns.
Sydney's Jewish community is reeling from yet another anti-Semitic attack.
He sees political advantage in some Green seats by abrogating his responsibility as Prime Minister that he has to people of Jewish faith.
It's been grotesque to see the rise in anti-Semitism since October the 7th, but it has been equally grotesque to see attempts being made to politicise either commemoration of the Holocaust or combating anti-Semitism.
A High Court ruling upended Australia's bipartisan immigration detention regime, resulting in the release of more than 150 detainees.
What steps is the government taking to protect the Australian community?
After months of criticism, the Immigration Minister, Andrew Giles, is out in the Prime Minister's first reshuffle.
As cost of living issues continued to bite, the Prime Minister abandoned key elements of legislated Stage 3 tax cuts he'd repeatedly vowed to leave intact.
When economic circumstances change, the right thing to do is to change economic policy.
And in the middle of a housing crisis, the Greens gained traction.
We will not stop fighting. We know your pain.
As the Prime Minister defended the purchase of his own multi-million-dollar home on the Central Coast.
When your relationship changes, your life changes and you make decisions.
They're obviously planning for their next stage of life post-politics.
The coalition created a clear point of difference on climate, proposing nuclear reactors across the country and setting up a battle over Australia's energy future.
It's time for an adult conversation about keeping the lights on and pushing power prices down.
If I wanted to tune into a fantasy, I'd watch Lord of the Rings.
It's a nonsense and a fantasy.
Look what happened. Is this crazy?
If energy and the economy weren't complex enough,
Donald Trump upending decades of US policy on the Middle East.
The US will take over the Gaza Strip. You're gambling with World War III.
2025 has plunged governments everywhere into disarray on foreign relations.
And with the stroke of a pen, Donald Trump has turned economic ties with America's biggest trading partners on their head.
Tariffs don't cause inflation, they cause success.
Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs reaching Australian shores.
Such a decision by the Trump administration is entirely unjustified.
This is a dog act after over a century of friendship.
On tariffs, security in Europe, the Middle East and America's reliability as an ally in the Pacific, Donald Trump's proving to be a global disruptor, confounding leaders with his daily pronouncements.
I don't intend to have a running commentary on the President of the United States' statements.
The President has a very different approach than his predecessors in my memory, and he has a business approach. He has been a negotiator, he's been a deal maker.
Timing counts for a lot in the fortunes of governments, and when Labor assumed office, inflation was running hot on the back of the pandemic, with the multiple interest rate hikes since, designed to cool it, inflicting extreme pain on households. While Labor's pointing to wage growth, lower inflation and the first interest rate cut since 2020, the consequences of sustained hip pocket pressures aren't often kind to incumbent governments. Seizing on that, Peter Dutton's reworking versions of Donald Trump's breakthrough question to voters: are you better off now than 3 years ago? The results on election night could well depend on the answer.